So, what do I think about the Spanish policy regarding the territory of Western Sahara? What's quite ironic about the whole conflict is that even though the Spanish administration was kind of responsible, or the first major player in the conflict, we still disregard it when talking about the issue, and we always refer to the Polisario and Morocco as the only parts of the conflict, which is quite false, because Spain still have the authority over the Spanish of the Western Sahara, and still have the responsibility and the moral duty to work upon the resolution of the conflict. Back to the European wave of colonization and imperialist movement, Spain and France kind of reached this agreement to divide Morocco into a Spanish colony in Western Sahara and a French colony in the middle of Morocco were given the north to Spain. So here we see already that Spain was the first, and France are both responsible for the first sparkle of this conflict, because by dividing territory, which was because Morocco was a great empire extending even to far to the south until the river of Senegal. So by coming and breaking down this empire into several regions, this is an imperialistic attempt, a strategy to make a certain conflict rise in the future because of the borders drawing. So first, here we can stipulate that Spain has a historical involvement in the conflict and hence has the duty to work upon its resolution. Again, after Moroccan independence in 1956, we still have Spain, which is present in the Western Sahara, mainly because of the many economic interests, phosphate mining, and fisheries. Spain had a lot of economic interests, and nobody can negate that. But Spain had also the political power to make a certain change while keeping its economic interests. For example, through the establishment of referendum and through the establishment of certain binding agreements between Spain and the Western Sahara chief tribes, in order to, for example, export phosphates or fisheries resources to Spain with advantageous rates. Maybe that would have been a solution, but Spain was kind of reluctant in leaving the Western Sahara unless their interests are entirely secured. What I think is Spain has led a quite successful strategy in manipulating the Western Saharan chief tribes, because when you have the colonial power in a certain region, they will make whatever it takes to first implement educational, social, political, and religious systems that would serve their interests. And that's why we can see that the Western Sahara people are quite extreme when it comes to their association with the Spanish identity to some extent, even though they fought against it at the later point. The new turn point in the whole Spanish involvement is the Madrid Agreement, because after the UN Resolution 1514 about the decolonization of African colonies, Spain was one of the last European countries which did not leave its colony. And furthermore, even in 1956, Franco declares Western Sahara as a Spanish province, which is kind of stubbornness of the Spanish administration in fighting against international law and keeping the Western Sahara under their control. After quite a long time, after pressures from the international community, from the resistance in Western Sahara and the resistance in Morocco, the Spaniards finally agreed to go out of the Western Sahara, but they didn't just leave without securing any interest. They left after signing the Madrid Agreement with Morocco and Mauritania, establishing this temporary administration to govern Western Sahara. This Madrid Agreement, which has been this tripartite agreement, as some people state, and though it's not official, have secured a lot of economic and political interests for Spain in the Western Sahara. So here we can see that this concept of a free market for interests is rising already, and the country who offers most benefits or most concessions to the colonial power is the one who gets its blessing and gets the right to govern afterwards. So Morocco gave Spain certain economic rights, certain political privileges that pushed Franco or the Spanish administration to grant Morocco certain rights to govern the Western Sahara. And we can even argue that in this kind of disturbed political situation in Spain, it was easy for Moroccan administration to push forward for getting the rule of Western Sahara, while Spain was in a weak situation in order to negotiate. So after Spain left the territory, the UN and several international organisms agreed that Spain didn't complete the decolonization process through the establishment of certain referendum. So here the Spain didn't fulfill its decolonization requirements as a colonial power, and thus they still, until today, have the obligation to do that, even though it would mean that Spain would have to come back to the territory and meet with a certain political or military confrontation with Morocco or other states in order to do that. So Spain has, according to international law, the obligation of leading or implementing a certain referendum and completing the decolonization process of the Western Sahara, which didn't happen until today. I quite researched the topic, and I found that the Spanish population is in total contrast with the administration. In one hand, Spanish people are kind of all supporters of the independence, or at least the implementation of a referendum in Western Sahara, while the administration is always trying to play this diplomatic game strategy in order to keep its political relations with Morocco in a good shape, but also in order to clean its hand from all what has to do with the conflict. So, as you can see, Spain is quite reluctant in assuming its responsibilities toward Western Sahara in international forums, in the UN, and in front of NGOs inquiries and research. This attitude would prove to be kind of a short-term solution for Spain, because we all know that at some point in the near future Spain would have to take again the responsibility, because such processes of decolonization cannot be left to the oblivion just through certain agreements with certain administrations, and those agreements, especially if those agreements are not in accordance with international law and world decolonization standards. I visited Tindouf camps, and I noticed that there is a strong presence of Spanish activists and Spanish people there who want to kind of research more the situation in the Western Sahara, and who kind of express this people resentment of the Spanish policy of their governments. But it's quite understandable that the Spanish authorities have to play this game, since the real politics and the world alliances pressured the Spanish government into keeping good and strong relations with Morocco. Otherwise, that would jeopardize the balance of forces in the region, but also the economic interest the EU has in the Western Sahara, mainly the phosphate mining, the fisheries exploitation as well. To sum up, I believe that Spain has to come back into international forums, assume its obligation and duties in the decolonization process of the Western Sahara, and the people should pressure their government in order to work forward for the resolution of this conflict, which has been prevailing for more than 36 years.